Into the cloud. All right, we had to click that little button. So we just thought it was time to do a little webinar to really, give some value to people that are out there right now as things start to open up again and things are changing. And the last 2 years, change has been the number one word I think that has been utilized to explain what we've been going through. And what we know is that change is uncertainty, and when people move through uncertainty, it challenges a lot of our past patterns. And so this beautiful little brain here is just a cybernetic organism that runs on habits and patterns, and some of those habits and patterns are fantastic and they serve us really well, and other ones may not. And so what we're going to do today is we're just going to share a few models for you to take in and maybe apply to your daily life to help you deal with change and what's coming. And so my background was a psychology teacher. I taught for 30 years. I've coached for 40 high-level sports. I became involved with Growth U, as I mentioned to a few of you that were on early, about 6 years ago, because my wife, my life partner, Denise, who just popped on, started first. She took 4 healthy mind and body programs and then signed up and started taking all of the Growth U programs. And, we had been married, I think 26 years at that point in time, 33 coming up, or 33 together, 31 this year. But, we looked at each other and I said, "You're not outgrowing me, sign me up," because I could see the transformation in her. It was like hitting me across the head with a pool noodle. And I just said, "You're not outgrowing me." And so, as a psychology teacher, I knew everything. I knew it. People say, "Oh, do you know?" "Oh, yeah, I know that. I know that. I know that." But what I know now is that if you don't apply what you know, the operating system that runs this, right, won't change, because those habits and patterns just continue to run unconsciously without changing them. And the same as your iPhone or whatever, Samsung, whatever you have to utilize, if you don't update this thing, it doesn't work properly. And so we know that, the question I always ask people is, when's the last time you updated your operating system? So with no further ado, I want to introduce the two geniuses that are going to speak today. So Erin Sullivan is a master trainer with a couple different companies within the Truesome team. We're all part of the Truesome team, and Growth U is just one piece of the Truesome team. She is a master trainer and a director of client relations at Envision U and also at NESP. So welcome, Erin, and so glad to have you here because I know how much genius you have. And to Denise, who part-time as a physical therapist or physiotherapist, depending on which country you're in. And she is the president of Growth U and mastery advisor, as am I. And so we're here to bring you a few different models and give you 4 things to take away today. So I'm going to turn it over to Erin, and we are going to start with the BICE model. So Erin, what is the BICE model?
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate that introduction. And I've got to say, I'm so excited to be back in this kind of growthy world today. As Paul mentioned, I've kind of been more on that corporate sector, working with our sales teams and Envision U, our corporate culture company. But Growth U is what brought me into this community. And so it's so fun to be back. And I was thinking about my journey, right, over the last, it's 2022, 7 years ago, I found Growth U. So close to, Paul, I've got you beat by 1 year here, but 7 years ago. And I knew that I was, I was craving, desiring this, this growth, this kind of next level of myself. And when I was looking back at it, it really boiled down to confidence. I was looking for more confidence in myself. I was looking for more belief in myself. And, I didn't know exactly what that was. And Growth U was that community, that hub, that environment that allowed me to continuously up level and build belief and confidence in myself. So that's what we're going to start today, is with belief. It's the foundation of everything we do at Growth U. And boiled down very, very simply, belief is a feeling of certainty about something. So whatever you believe to be true and certain is what you're going to experience in the world. So when we're talking about confidence and when we're talking about how do I internally build that confidence, we want to look at our beliefs first. What do I believe about myself, my abilities, my team, my surroundings? What do I believe about my environment? And, whether it is something, personal, if you're going on a new health journey or you're looking at your finances, maybe you started a new relationship, it all starts with that belief. And so I wanted to kind of illustrate the BICE model, which we'll go into what that stands for, with a personal story, because I feel like stories are just more fun than going through, what it's A, B, and C. But a few years ago, I ran my first marathon. And I wasn't a big runner at the time. It was just something that a friend had said, hey, I'm doing this, come along with me. I was like, okay, well, as long as I'm not doing it by myself, I'll do it. And so at the very, as soon as I hit that register button, and as soon as you make that decision, whatever that goal is for yourself, you have to think of that belief. And so my belief was, I'm going to cross that finish line and I'm going to feel good doing it. That's all I wanted. I said, I'm not going to, I was focused on, being healthy, being whole and complete. A lot of people, are injured when they're running marathons. And so that was my number one belief. And so at a bare minimum, it's looking at that belief to build the confidence that you can complete, whatever goal you have. But we like to take it a step further. And, it's not just the belief, but it's really, how do I strengthen that belief so it's unshakable? And that's where we get to kind of have a little fun. We get to play with our imagination. So if you're following BICE, we've got B for belief, I for imagination. And this is where you can get really creative. For me in the marathon, it was visualizing, mentally rehearsing, running the 26.2 miles. It was in San Diego. So I was seeing the beach in my visualizations. I was feeling, the salty air, against my skin. And most importantly, I was visualizing myself crossing the finish line, feeling really good. So I was really attaching a lot of emotion to that imagination piece as well. And that itself, every layer helps to build that confidence towards your goal. And once you continue doing, reconnecting to the belief, refocusing and reimagining your imagination, you get to this level called conviction. And conviction is, in my mind, this unshakable belief. It is, you are rock solid. Nothing externally can shake you from that conviction. It's really a courageous and, loving approach to whatever goal you have. And you have to, when you're thinking about these goals, that courage piece, when you get to the conviction, it doesn't matter what happens outside of you. You have that internal certainty, that internal motivation that you can achieve whatever you set out to do. And that kind of, even saying that, kind of ignites some type of confidence, that feel good feeling within you. And it really then goes to an expectation, the E in our BICE model. I knew before I even, took one step in that marathon that I was going to finish feeling good. There was no other option. I was so crystal clear and certain about it. And the really funny thing, it's actually not funny that it happened, but an interesting thing is 5 minutes after I crossed the finish line, they shut down the whole race. The whole race was done. There was a threat of an armed shooter. Luckily, it was a threat and not any, actual scenario with it. But all of my other friends, there's 4 other people running with me, had to stop dead in their tracks. And it took about 45 minutes for the race to get started again. I don't know if you've ever run 26 miles, but stopping at 26 and then having to push through 0.2 more miles after a 45-minute break is not going to feel very good, no matter, how well trained you are. And it was just so interesting because that never even crossed. I finished 5 minutes before that, the stop of the show, if you will. And so I just encourage, as a number one thing, when you're looking at starting something new, when you're looking at that goal, go through that BICE model and continuously check in with your beliefs, play and have fun with your imagination, get rock solid in that conviction. Nothing, can change. No external factors can shake those beliefs, and ultimately have that expectation. And that's going to be the first step into, building this internal confidence that you have. And I know Denise has just a plethora of expertise and stories and wisdom around belief too. So I don't want to take up too much more time on this first one, but I want to toss it to you, Denise, to kind of wrap us up on our belief section.
Awesome. Well, so good, Erin. And thank you for that story, because that so well illustrates the process that we want people to go through. And thanks for, it's a bit echoing here. I'm in my clinic still. So can you hear me okay? Great. I hear the echo more than you guys do probably. So, Erin, can you answer, like, what did it feel like when you imagined yourself crossing the finish line?
It was the sense of just pure relief and joy. Like I could feel the endorphins throughout my body when it was February and I had run 6 miles versus June in San Diego when I ran 26. You could feel that in my body.
Yeah. And then when you actually did finish, did that feeling compare to what you imagined?
Oh yeah, it was the euphoria, and it was similar, but it was also heightened. Like I had felt it before, and then it almost made the experience even more beautiful because I knew it and I was like, oh, this is how it really feels. My imagination, didn't even compare, but I thought, yeah.
So what Erin has so beautifully illustrated is that when we believe something, right, that feeling of certainty, and we imagine it, we tap into our unconscious mind and its emotions and feelings. Anything we feel, think, imagine, it all comes from this beautiful brain you have. And so when you are using this model, I highly recommend that you tap into what you feel you want to feel when you do the thing you want to do. And that helps to get your brain's imagination really fired up. And I love that I said fired up. We'll get back to that later.
You planned that perfectly, Denise.
That was totally my unconscious brain at work. So just know that that's something I really recommend, is that you tap into the emotion of what you want to feel and how you are going to feel at the end of doing something that you were imagining, because that really helps to get your brain working for you. The other thing that I think is really important is remembering that you want to tap into what you need to believe. If you feel like you don't have the belief in your ability or what you're trying to do, what do you need to believe? Right? What is it? Oh man, I don't know if I've got the strength to do this marathon. Well, no, I have to believe that, yes, I do. And you heard that in Erin's story. I do have the strength and the capability to complete this healthy and whole. So when you're trying to, get into a goal, get into something that's new for you, and also tap into that internal confidence. What do I need to believe about myself, about my surroundings, about what I'm doing to achieve this goal? So I think that's an important thing, is what do I need to believe? And then, when we talk about, as we move forward, we're really talking about focus. What are we focusing on? So when I'm talking about beliefs and what I imagine, what am I focusing on as I do that? The law of focus is very simple. It's what I focus on, I find. What I focus on grows. What I focus on seems real. So we create our reality, right? And what I focus on, I eventually become. So this is another really powerful model for all of you to remember, that when you are trying to achieve something new, when you're trying to build internal confidence to step into uncertainty, which is what we're all about here, right? The world has been doing all sorts of crazy stuff, and I have no control over that, but I do have control over what I focus on and how I can show up, what I can do, right? So that focus is so important in all domains. And one story I'll mention is when our kids were first learning to play a sport. We're a big volleyball family, and Paul is a coach. He's coached for 40 years, and they were learning to serve. And our daughter is not the strongest person on the court at the time. She had really good skill, but she was a late bloomer and she was really lean. And so she had trouble getting the ball over the net. And Paul had a process where he's like, you need to imagine, so using the BICE model, to imagine yourself seeing that ball go over. And you need to focus on where you are hitting, not on where you were and where the ball is now. You need to look at where you want the ball to go. And as soon as she started to focus on over the net versus in front of the net, where she was focusing, she started to get it over the net. And so where we focus, another great story is you're on the trail and you're riding your bike, don't hit the tree. Oh, don't hit the tree, don't hit the tree. Oh, I hit the tree, because I'm focusing on the tree instead of focusing on where I want to go. And so our brain does that in all areas. So focus, controlling your focus, really looking at what you want and where you want to go, that's a powerful tool from the inside. And our focus will get tugged all over the place. So really remembering what you want in that imagination in the BICE model, and then focusing on what you want is super important. Erin, do you have anything else to tell us about the focus?
I love that. Yeah, that's so great. And it's almost natural sometimes to focus on what we don't want, right? I think that's a society, right? Oh, we don't want this. Oh, I don't want to live like this. I don't want to feel like that. But to Denise's point, what we focus on, we're attracting more of into our environment, into our world. And so like for the volleyball, I remember playing that in gym growing up. I would focus on, dang, this ball hurts my arms. I don't like it. And I haven't played volleyball since. So maybe I should try and give that another shot and change my focus a little bit. But it's anytime I find myself dipping into that external motivation that Denise talked about, when things are just not working right, I'm just not feeling good, I know my confidence has dipped, 9 times out of 10, it's my focus is off. I'm focusing on the things I don't like about myself. I'm focusing on the things that I find hard or that I'm not good enough at. I find myself focusing on what I don't want. And so that's just an immediate flip, right? If we can just think of what's one thing that I can do today when I don't feel my best self, when I feel that confidence dragging, where's that external focus coming in, external motivation coming in that I don't even have control over a lot of the times? And how can I flip that to a more serving thought? And I love how all these tie in to each other, right? So the BICE model, the imagination ties into focus. And when we're thinking about focus, we can't talk about focus without talking about our self-talk. So we have this thing called our ultimate performance state, and it's our focus, it's our self-talk, and that's our body language. To me, that little trio there is like number one on you want to feel confident in yourself. Let's look at that trio. And so we've got our focus in check. And a lot of times that self-talk that comes in is not serving. It's the self-talk that's focused on the things we don't like, the things that we don't want. So it sounds like a simple flip, like, of course, like, let's just think of what we want. And it's really easy to kind of forget it, to not be intentional about it. We've talked a lot about that conscious brain and, the things that we do unconsciously, those habits and patterns. A lot of times, if we're not intentional on that positive self-talk, that direction of our focus, it can fall to the wayside. A couple days ago on Tuesday, actually, I was in a hot yoga class and I just joined a brand new gym here. It's a very new routine for me, but I've been doing it and I've been doing it consistently and it's been great. And haven't had any issue in the classes. And on Tuesday, there was a substitute teacher. And I knew ahead of time, so I, framed myself well. I was like, all right, someone different. I know it's gonna be a little different flow. I've got it. This will be a great opportunity to learn from a new instructor. And it started out really beautiful. On our backs, they had the Tibetan singing bowls. I was like, oh, this is gonna be a primo class of relaxation. I'm gonna feel like a new person coming out of it. And the first thing we do after, we're all calm and zen is a core exercise. And it's not just one, it's like 8 minutes of core in a 97-degree Fahrenheit room. And I get in my head and I'm focused on how hard it is. I don't like core. This isn't fun. How could you do core in the beginning? That's supposed to be at the end when I know I'm almost done. It's too hot in here. And I was so focused on everything terrible. And that self-talk that was running through, it was I was about a minute away from grabbing my stuff and running out the door. And I was like, this isn't me. I know I can push through this. This is hard, but I can do hard things. It's uncomfortable, but that's okay. We live outside our comfort zone. But I noticed myself in the middle of that class in this spiral of just negative, unserving self-talk. And it almost ruined the whole class. Could have left. And it, I would have felt really defeated. My confidence would have just been shot after that. So it's that pattern interrupt of stop. This is not a self-serving thought. This is not where my focus needs to be. How do I reframe? How do I change? Even to Denise's point, if I don't believe in the moment that I can do this, me telling myself like it, my mind doesn't know what's real and what's not. The more I reinforce those healthy thoughts, those thoughts of confidence, if I can, the more I'm going to innately believe, and my actions and my thoughts are going to change from there. So I'm really intentional now. It's we're a product of our environments. My self-talk every morning is, that little morning routine. I don't know if anyone else has, how you start your day. To me, it's I've got to have some type of a book, something to get my mind in the right state. So I have my unconscious mind just has a little bit of help of the things I want to focus on, how I want to talk to myself. I'm reading a book now called You Deserve This Shit. It's really simple, easy read. Just it talks about the things I know, but it's a really digestible way for me in the morning to just make sure my self-talk's on point. So when I get to those tough yoga classes, or when I have a difficult conversation with a coworker or a significant other, or whatever else happens, I can really change my approach, change my focus, change my self-talk, change that body language, right? And I'm going to get a completely different result. And it's kind of that, fake it till you make it. Even if I'm uncomfortable, if I don't believe it in the moment, let's tell ourselves, let's give ourselves that belief, that self-love, and just watch how that changes, your day, how it changes your approach. So that's our third point, is the self-talk. So Denise, how would you like to, anything to add to that?
I love that. And I want to ask everybody, who uses an affirmation to get themselves ready for a presentation, or if you're doing a marathon, or if you're doing something important, do you talk to yourself to psych yourself up, right? Who uses that? And yeah. And so how powerful would it be if you talk to yourself that way around everything in your life, right? We can control that. And how, I got this. The way that we talk to ourselves is a habit, right? Everything we do is a habit. And to Erin's point, she was in this beautiful Zen state and I felt great. And then her yoga instructor changed the tune and her brain went, what the heck? Right. And so when life throws us a curveball, we're going to react in some way, which kind of gets us to our next point eventually. And I really want to emphasize that you have control over what you tell yourself. And it takes practice to notice I tell myself this all the time. Like, my example is tax season, and my husband can identify that, oh man, it's tax season again. This is not going to be fun. This is going to be hard. Well, who says so? I'm saying so. Why does it have to be that way? Can it be different? Can tax season be easy? Can I get people to help me? Of course I can. Can I go into this with an attitude of I've got this? And, so tax season and the dentist. Yeah. So you see what I'm saying is that we can change how we talk to ourselves when we're aware of it. So when I'm getting into state, to Erin's point, I'm changing my physiology and what I feel, right back around to, the BICE model, and changing beliefs and feeling and imagining what I want. So we can do that with our self-talk. I can imagine what I want to say to myself, and I start to notice with the law of focus what I'm saying to myself, and I change it to what I want instead of what I don't want. Yeah. So all these models work together, you guys, which is the really fun thing. So Erin, I talked about when life throws you a curveball, and you talked about it in yoga, right? About how do we react, which is usually a split second experience, versus you took a moment and you responded. So can you explain the difference between reacting and responding to a curveball, which we are all getting, it seems like every couple of days right now.
Yes, there's a lot of curveballs going around in the world and in life, and you have the two choices. You can respond or you can react. And simply put, when you get to respond, so responsibility, this is your ability to respond. So you are taking responsibility for your action, for your mindset, for your outcome. When you respond, you're doing so proactively. You have that affirmation ready. You have that pattern interrupt ready, like stop. Nope, we're not going down that rabbit hole anymore. And you're able to respond courageously with confidence versus when you react to something, that split second reaction, right? We kind of all know where you might be a little more aggressive, you might have that negative self-talk, you might, speak to someone in a way you don't want to. When you react in a situation, it's more reactive, as the word suggests, right? Where that external situation that may have triggered you, that curveball, that's external motivation. You're letting that dictate how you treat the situation. And it's oftentimes fear-based. So when you're proactive and you respond, it's courageous, it's confident. When you react and it's reactive, it's fear-based. It's something that, was uncomfortable for you. Something from the outside world is dictating how you feel and how you are going to, move through that outcome. So that's a very simple term with it. We really encourage, one of the best things I think that Growth U does, beautifully in this community is teaching people to be proactive with how you respond to situations. And it takes that courage. It takes that internal belief in yourself. Because if you don't believe that you can, influence the outside world or you can influence your situations, it's easy to just take a step back, kind of be a victim is what we call it, one of our categories of deception when things get tough. Play that victim where it's, well, I can't do anything anyways. It's going to rain tomorrow anyways. I'm not going to go get an umbrella. I'm just going to get wet, right? And that is your reaction state. So I think, if whatever you take out of this, we've got the 4 steps, how you can build that internal confidence, really looking at how can I proactively respond when things get tough is a beautiful way to build that confidence in yourself.
Mm-hmm. And something that I really like to say too, one more thing, one of our, Bana, who's one of our PhD writers and produces a lot of our programs, she talks about whenever she's in a situation where it's reaction versus response, she takes a moment and she believes that everybody is doing the best they can with what they know and the tools that they have in their toolkit. When she does that, her life goes so much more smoothly. And I've taken the same, the same proactive response, is that I truly believe that everybody is doing the best they can. And when I remember that, most of the time, not all the time, because I'm human and I'm not perfect, my life feels so much better because I am coming from an inside out place, from a loving place versus a fear-based place. So yeah, Erin, great stuff.
Awesome. Right back at you, Denise.
Well,
So good.
thank you both for this amazing little session. And I just want to be aware of time. We've just hit the 4:30 mark. But before we close, I just want to say thank you. And if you didn't get the 4 points, we'll just quickly go through them again. So we're looking at BICE model, right? Belief, imagination, conviction, expectation. Number 2 was the law of focus. What you focus on, you find. What you focus on grows. What you focus on seems real. And what you focus on, you ultimately become. Number 3 was the self-talk, or the ultimate performance state. And this is one thing I'll quickly say, is that if you are in ultimate performance state throughout the day, and it's hard to stay in it all the time, but anything that comes at you, it's almost like wearing a shield of armor, right? Things will come at you, but they'll deflect off. If you're not in an ultimate performance state and things come at you, that respond, react, that last one, there's a good chance you're going to react versus respond. That armor, that piece will allow you that 0.5 seconds to go, well, that's really interesting. You just said that to me. Where's that coming from? Like, I'm not sure what you meant with that. So that 0.5 seconds is the difference between reacting and responding, because emotionally, we're going to feel it, but we can go, wait a minute, that's not me, that's them. Because we're going inside out versus outside in. So that's, and both of them mentioned that. So that's something to take away. And I do want to say that if anybody on here is like, this is gold, this is really good stuff, I like this, we have a program starting up on Monday. We're going to spend 30 days dialing in these models plus a couple of others to reprogram this so that when we do get into situations that maybe have been rocking us lately, that we have the armor to put on to go, not today. I'm in charge and I get to choose how I feel. So I'm going to put the link in the chat. And if you are interested, we've got one of our Growth U leaders, Laura Hyman, who's going to be leading the group through. It's called Fired Up. And Denise alluded to that earlier when she was speaking. It just happened to mention Fired Up. Ooh, that was a good segue. So Fired Up is a 30-day program. We're going to be there hanging out. And if anybody wants to join us, click on the link. If you have a Growth U account, you just log in and sign up for it. If you don't, when you go to the site, it'll be in really small print. Like if you don't have an account, create one. And so just click on that button and you can put your information in and then you can sign up. And if there's any other programs that you see within the Growth U community that you'd like to take, you're welcome to take any of them at any time. Most of them, some of them are advisor led, but the majority of them you can take at any time. This one is going to be fun because we have a group going through. So it's always fun when we have a group of people.
I'm taking it.
Yeah, I'm taking it too. Yeah. There's a few of us in here taking it.
I would love to add one more thing. You know, I think webinars and meetings, conversations are so great because if you're like me, you'll take pages of notes or, you know, you've got, you know, your takeaways, and I'll look at them a lot. And a lot of times they end up in my notebook that's closed or in a drawer on the side, which is totally fine. We're all human. The power of taking a 30-day program, it's just a little bit every single day, commitment and consistency. So for 30 straight days, you're intentionally focused on how can I build my internal confidence a little bit more today? And then the next day, a little bit more. And you're doing it with a fun group. So I just always like to put that in because I'm a big note taker and I love webinars and I love courses and training. And that's what brought me to Growth U is it's not just knowledge, but we get to change our behaviors. We get to change our mindsets together.
And I love that. And that's, I mean, how I got in, and I said that at the beginning, right, Denise? I knew everything, but until you do it all the time on a regular basis, it doesn't happen. And so we can know it all, but until we actually do the do, you know, they say if nothing changes, nothing changes, right? So we can read all the self-help books in the world until we put it into action. And I want to be just conscious, like, does anybody have any questions or anything they'd like to give it a little shout out before we have to end this here? But anything come up for anybody that they'd like to share? Feel free to unmute and speak up. And if not, that's okay.
It's so nice to see everybody's faces. I'm so glad you're here. That was fun.
All right.
We really appreciate what you did tonight.
Oh,
We'll
thanks,
look into
Sheila.
the programs.
Appreciate that. All right. Well, I hope to see you guys in there. That'd be awesome. We might even get Rod to come in and pop in and say hi for you.
That'd be nice.
Awesome. All right.
All
Well,
right.
hey, have a fantastic rest of your Thursday evening, wherever you are. And we will hopefully see you next week. And I know some of you will see multiple times next week. All right.
Bye.
Thank you.
Much love all. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.